Alrighty, friends. Today we're going to do 2 lessons together. So you're going to have to really follow along with me and make sure you're on the right page and stay with me whenever I switch. Alright, so for right now, we're going to do lesson 7.7. You should be on page 403. Make sure that you put your name at the top of your paper. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so today we're talking about dividing by 7, and we're going to talk about dividing by 8. 8 and 7 are kind of similar because they're 2 numbers that are kind of tricky to divide by. So any strategy I talk about for 7, you could also use for 8, and any strategy we talk about for 8, you can also use for 7, because they are both strategies when we're dividing by a bigger number that we don't know all that well. All right, so the Unlock the Problem on page 403 says Yasmin used 28 large apples to make 7 loaves of bread. She used the same number of apples for each loaf. How many apples did Yasmin use for each loaf? All right, so we circled the numbers. Now we're going to underline the question. My question is, how many apples did Yasmin use for each loaf? Now I'm going to box those operation clues. So she used the same number of apples for each loaf. How many apples did she use for each loaf? All right, so I'm going to skip this here for the sake of time. All right, so the first way that you can divide by 7 is by making an array. So it says draw 1 tile in each of the 7 rows, because we know that we have to use 28 apples total and that there are 7 loaves. And we're trying to figure out how many is in each. So if I make 7 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I'm going to add 1 tile in each until I get to 28. And each row is going to be like 1 loaf. So each of these represents 1 loaf of bread. So I've got 7. I'm going to just count as I go. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So there I've got my 28 apples. Each row is 1 loaf of bread. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 in each row, which means there's 4 apples in each loaf. So down here, we're going to go to the bottom. There are 4 tiles in each row. So Yasmin used 4 apples for each loaf. We can write it 2 ways. We can write 28 divided by 7 equals 4, or we can write 28 divided by 7 equals 4. Both show that I got the right answer. So using an array is one way that we can solve it. We're going to flip the page to 404. We can also solve by using related multiplication facts. So we know that related facts are those 3 numbers for multiplication and division that we can put together to figure out a missing number. So it says use a related multiplication fact. So 28 divided by 7 equals A. So 28 divided by 7 is the same thing as saying 7 times some number is going to give me 28. What is that number? And if I know my 7's facts or my 4's facts, I would know that that number is going to be 4, because I know that 7 times 4 is going to equal 28. So again, 28 divided by 7, if I think about multiplication, is going to be 4. The last way we can solve 7s is by making equal groups. So if I'm doing the problem 28 divided by 7, I know that I have 28 counters that I'm going to divide into 7 equal groups. So I've got 1, remember you're doing this along with me, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm going to put a dot in each until I get to 28. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So I would check all these answers by knowing that there are 4 in each group. See, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, which means that I also got the answer 4. So we can do any of these strategies for 7s and 8s. Okay, so we made an array, we use related facts, and we made equal groups. Now I want you to flip to page 409, and this is lesson 7.8, and it talks about using or dividing by 8. So we already have used related facts, we've made an array, we've used equal groups. Another way that we can do it is repeated subtraction. So let's look at the problem on page 409. You should be on page 409. At Stephen's camping store, firewood is sold in bundles of 8 logs. So I see that number 8. He has 32 logs, circle that, to put in bundles. How many bundles of firewood can he make? Okay, so I'm going to underline that question. At Stephen's camping store, firewood is sold in bundles of 8 logs. He has 32 logs to put in bundles. How many bundles of firewood can he make? All right, so what will Stephen do with the 32 logs? He's breaking them up into bundles of 8. All right, so when we use repeated subtraction, we start with the biggest number. So we start with 32, and we're going to subtract 8 until we get down to 0. So we're going to continue to subtract 8 until the difference is less than 8. So let's fill in these blanks. Count the number, and the last step is you count the number of times you subtracted 8. So it started with 32, they subtracted 8, and they got the number 24. Now we take that 24 and we go up here. Now we do 24 minus 8. Well, 24 minus 8 is, let's think about this, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. So I'm going to put that 16 down here. And then just like we did the last one, we're going to take that 16 right back up. Now we've got 16 minus 8. And I know that that's pretty easy because I know that 8 plus 8 equals 16. So I know that 16 minus 8 is going to give me 8. And then I take that 8 right back up here. And we do 8 minus 8 equals 0. Okay? So we get our answer by looking at the number of times that we subtracted 8. So let's just box each time. There's 1 time. Here's 2 times. 3 times. 4 times. So we subtracted 4 times. So Stephen can make 4 bundles of firewood. That's like saying each time we're subtracting 1 bundle of logs. So we could also use this strategy for 7s as well. All right? And it says the next way is that we can use related facts like we did before with 7s. So we would think, what times 8 is going to give me that 32? And I know that that answer is 4 times 8 is going to give me that 32. So my answer is going to be 4. All right, and the very last way it wants you to look at is a multiplication chart if you flip the page. So you can use a multiplication chart to find the missing number as well. So if Stephen If it's a similar question, it says Stephen has a log that is 16 feet long. If he cuts the log into pieces that are 2 feet long, how many pieces will Stephen have? So what you do is you start with the number that you're dividing. So they found this 16, and they know that we are going to have to break it into 2 feet pieces. So they found the 2 feet pieces here, and they found 16, and that they were trying to figure out what number can I match with 2 to get 16. So you find the factor 2 in the top row. You look down to find the product of 16, and then you look left to find the unknown factor. So that unknown factor is 8. So I'm going to fill in 8 into all these blanks, and if we check it, we would know that 8 times 2 equals 16, and 16 is going to be equal to 16, so our equation is true. We don't use multiplication charts very often, that's why I went quick through this. So I want you to think about the other ways mostly.